Whoa. All right, everyone, what are we doing today? Well, I have been really struggling to get people to make this transition away from a list based world to a go to market engineering world. And I think that it's kind of because there's a great quote that we shape our tools and thereafter our tools shape us. And as part of this desire for a transition, you have to get people to think in more long term ways where you're not going to get revenue from a go to market system in a week, in a month, in 3 months, maybe even in 6 months. But there are some fundamental truths that are true about a business and who they target and why they target those people. So, what we're going to do is we're going to see if we can basically create a good scope document for how you should think about a go-to-market engineering role and what information you need to be able to input in that sort of scope. Now, I'm also going to, I'm overfitting a little bit to this, but Nate Nostrala's one-page business, the one-page business case is pretty good. And so we're going to, it's not going to be one page, but we're going to try to basically figure out if we can help an organization create this plan and have a template that people can use. So we're going to talk to AI. I've pasted in all of Clay's pages. Clay I think they just updated all of their website. And this is basically all of their learnings talking with so many of the people in the go-to-market engineering community. And then I pasted my entire upcoming course, which is who to target and what to say. So Claude has a lot of context. So all I'm going to do, and I always change to explanatory. Basically, they default, sometimes when it's heavy load, they'll default to concise responses. And you always want to change that. So what you're looking at is all of clay.com's website and my course, Who to Target and What to Say. Now, I want you specifically to help me think through the problem set here and different ways to accomplish what I want to accomplish. Organizations that are switching from a list-based world or a world where you would get an Apollo or ZoomInfo license, you would pull in titles, you blast people out, and you would try to personalize, put in their name or the school they went to. This is a dying, dead world. But the new world it's not as easy as the old world. And what you need to do is you need to build foundational systems. And that means adding things specifically like AI agents, scrapers, and workflows. So I'm going to also paste you in my entire website, which is pretty telling too about how I think about this. So for people, for an organization to transition away from these tools like ZoomInfo and basically not into things like the AI SDR, which is trying to replicate the last way of doing things with AI, which doesn't make any sense. I think that the best way to think about this is you need you need things like account qualification, which is this account good or not? Account quantification, which is how good is the account? You can only do this by segment. You can't do it for all of your ICP if you are a horizontal B2B SaaS company. But this new world requires like a longer term investment, and it needs sort of categorization so people can understand it. The three things that I've been thinking about are AI agents, scrapers, and workflows. But we need to help the organization sort of plot out a little bit of market context a la April Dunford and how she thinks about positioning, and then be able to create a really compelling business case. And this business case is not about, and I pasted an example of a business case framework, which we don't have to use, but this business case is not about like quick wins. It's really about figuring out what is the data layer, How does it impact revenue? And if you can get the data layer right, you don't have to worry about which channels to target and what to say, because you have a whole constantly running enrichment happening. So I also am going to paste you a transcript of a call I had. My name is Jordan Crawford. That goes over some of my thinking here. So, so can you help me just like think through the problem here and sort of iterate on the challenge that companies are experiencing in trying to transition to this sort of new world of doing things? So you know how I kind of like I talk a lot to AI, and it really Claude does a really good job at this. But to do it well, you really need to warm up the chat, and you want to take a step back, take a step back, take a step back. So much context. Yeah, it's pondering. That makes sense. Yeah, yeah. This is right. Yeah, data-driven intelligence layer. Yeah, yeah. This is right. This is also very true. That's right. This is right. This is right. Custom scrapers that capture workflows. The account qualification. Oh, Grace. The data foundation intelligence layer. The activation framework. Oh my gosh. DIA. Dead. It should be DOA. Dead on arrival. Goes beyond basic firmographics. Understand unique systems for capturing. Process returning segment understanding into targeted messaging. Yes. Right to the person, right time. Sure. But the channel becomes almost secondary once you have a deep understanding. The data itself, who's to target, what to say. Yes, we might. The cost of the status quo. Yes, yes. Compound value of understanding, the strategic advantage. Yeah, this is great. So I absolutely agree with this. The strategic advantage is really key here. That if you invest in both data and workflow, custom data and workflow around that custom data to deploy to channels, you have a moat because it's data that you invent. You're not buying this stuff for Zoom Info and Apollo. And by the way, that's just really expensive. The way that I'm targeting this, the way that I'm structuring my plans today are like you get 12 credits a year, and you get an AI agent, a workflow, or a scraper, and then we'll help you stand up all of your systems. We own the scrapers and the actual content of the AI agents. Everything else you own. Training is sort of a separate thing. Can you help me now think through what is the most compelling description of the world of the past? What is the most compelling transition framework, which is to say, how do we quantify and sort of qualify that world of why you can't continue doing things, and also how to think through the importance of this transition in a way that people can understand. I'm also going to paste you a meeting that I had that kind of talks through this. I'm not like really super happy with the way that I talked about it. But there's a conversation with the CRO, Mark, which I'll paste in here. And Mark really kind of understood the problem, but I kind of want to focus on how I communicate the transition and scope this world for Mark so that he knows exactly the value of this. He can communicate it. So can you sort of help me think through this trend, both the transition as well, like the transition the market's making, as well as the way in which I can position this, so people know what a go-to-market engineer is and how to get value from it. This is really important to me. I'm having a really hard time figuring this out, and really would appreciate it if you can do a great job here. It means a lot to me. Emotional resonance turns out to make the models perform better. Of course, I'm using superwhisper.com, which I'm a shill for their company. I like what they do a lot. Right. Yeah. Yes. 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 This is all from my context. Rising cost of declining effectiveness, increased sophistication of spam filters. This is true. This is all true. No lasting competitive advantage. That's great. This is great. DWA. Improves your understanding. This is right. Yeah. Oh, fuel engine output. Wow. Okay, this is great. I do want you to think about the positioning. So, like the data foundation, like I think that we need to think of like cooler words for these. Like instead of data foundation, like GTM base layer or something. So I do think it's like data, like workflow activation. Like I want to come up with a better, like these should all have framework names. Like DWA doesn't have a ring to it. So we need to kind of reimagine this with a ring to it, which is both you need the sort of the go-to-market foundation, and that's like what data, that's like which segment, what data, and then the workflow is like how do you get that to move through your systems, when, how often, and then activation is like channels, how does that get to people. So this is kind of the key. And I love the compounding nature, and I also love that like I want to talk about this as like segment by segment. Like one problem that people come to is that they can't do this for multiple segments, and so they just default back to their bad thinking. You really do have to get deep, and you have to do this segment by segment. And I love the compounding advantage, and I love the fuel engine, but like keep that output. Like I would say, let's make this a little bit more aligned with the metaphor. So I like the fuel, I like the engine, and like laps, or there's something else with the output that is really, that's the thing that speeds it up. So it's like the fuel, and maybe this metaphor is not really right because you need to figure out what data that you need. Then you do need to figure out like, great, how do you turn this into a process, and then how do you like figure out the output. I don't like the phrase strategic value, but okay. This is actually, this is capturing it pretty well. Now what I need to do is I need to put this into an artifact with a narrative behind it. So I feel like you have the narrative like pretty good, but I need two artifacts. The first is I need the narrative artifact, which is like, here's kind of why we're not in that world, and here's sort of the new world. And then I need a second artifact, which maybe you just tell me to wait because it's too much in one prompt. But so you should ask me to continue. But after that, the next artifact that I want is really what they need to fill in to help map this. Generally, the way I think about it is that there's kind of this really chicken and the egg problem, which is they don't often know the data that they need. And so there is an exploratory phase that we go through. They're not sure how to build those workflows, and they don't know how that turns into channels and systems. So as part of this, it's important to like interview their reps. Like their sales reps are usually doing it at low volume. The data is like probably trapped in conversations with their customers. Like it exists in the organization. It's just not structured and extracted. And so the goal here is to be able to tell the narrative about why this is important, and tell a very compelling narrative. And then after that, the goal is to help people put that narrative on paper. So can you, like before we create either artifact, can you sort of think through this process and how we should think about this process? Anytime I'm like, I don't know the answer, I ask the model to help me think through the exact ways in which we should go about this. This video will go on for 10 more minutes and then I have a meeting. But this is an important one. Oh, the challenge I'm hearing has several layers. This is so good. I'm here. Broadcast signal intelligence. Yeah. Yeah. This is great. Yeah. Oh, this is really interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I would say the signal intelligence is interesting. I see if you can play around with that. I I really liked it more when we talked about like the data layer and the activation layer, and the like there's like a connecting systems layer. So it's like first you have to get, there's like almost like a gathering thing, which is like you have to gather all that information in one place. You have to, for a segment, you have to turn that into signal. And I don't like the word signals because it's not just signals. It's like data. So there's discovery. There's sort of the data foundation for the segment. Then there is a systems sort of foundation, and then there is a deployment layer. And this is like RevOps adjacent, but it's not RevOps per se. And you should probably focus this around my conversation with Mark because he's like one of the CROs that totally gets it. The naming is important, but you can talk about that. And I like the compound advantage. That's like really important. This is like sort of an eating your vegetables problem, where it doesn't pay off at first. It's like working out, right? It's like working out is awful at the beginning. And it's kind of like that. And yes, the market evolution, I really love that. So let's actually just kind of create the market evolution story as its own artifact. And then for the implementation framework, I really want people to be able to fill out something like the one-page business case where this can be mapped. And I think that map really is like, what data do we need? What systems does it need to connect with? And like things like, and then how does it get deployed to channels? Those are, I think, the key questions. But let's first do the market evolution story as an artifact and write it in my voice. So the whole course that I copied is sort of my voice. So what we're trying to do here is really get the model to think and talk like me and to be able to tell a compelling story for a customer. I love this little activation. This little is eating sales. Oh yeah, not the slow suffocation. Yeah, yeah. Inbox weren't saturated. This is the problem. Zero lasting advantage. Yeah, this is right. Yeah. This is exactly right. This is good. Uh, yeah, built their go-to-market foundation. The discovery layer. This is where DSD, deep segments, and nobody else has. Not where you get but real insights about. Yes. This is how you turn that knowledge into scalable operations. The deployment layer. Yes, this is right. And systems. You understand compounds. Your data gets richer. Your advantage grows for your go-to-market. The first segment is the hardest. You're building up, but each. Yes, this is right. The vegetables first approach. Look at this, great. Yeah. It's like there's alternative. The early days are painful. Build strength that's hard to match. While other competitors are still trying to brute force their way through this, they're operating at a different level. Yeah. Companies still trying. Oh yeah. Yeah, this is great. This is wow. This is amazing. Okay. Let's talk to Claude a little bit. I feel like you've captured this exceptionally well. But before we build the next one, I want you to think through what are the inputs needed. So you have a really good understanding on where the buyer is at. But we have a problem, which is like they don't know what data they need. They don't know how to operationalize it. They don't know how to take it into systems. So can you help me sort of think through what would one need to do? Now I talk a little about the 5C framework, for example. But let's just first, before we develop the second artifact, which is basically how do they scope this? So the goal is that the next artifact is really going to be helping people get to like a full scope so they can see the full system. So just help me think through what would be needed for someone to really go from this past world to this scoping world and how we might think about helping them capture this information, the process for it, and get it mapped out. I don't even know where to begin here. Can you help me think through this in immense detail? All right. Yeah, this is right. Yeah. Yes. Yes. I hate signal identification. Okay, this is great. I hate signal identification. I really want to call it data. And so, and then systems mapping and channel strategy. Um, yeah, I mean, I think, and also we have to be very clear. It's like we need to figure out which segment to start with. Like that's absolutely the very beginning place. And then it's like, then you're right. There's like a data systems and deployment layer. And yes, there's a discovery process, and it needs to sort of walk them through this systematic knowledge extraction. AI is going to be a big part of this too. I have a series of prompts that can kind of help for this, but this is really good. So I think you have enough to. Oh, okay. Create a discovery framework that helps extract the right. Yes, there definitely needs to be a discovery framework. So how do you extract the right information? Oh, and we definitely need a template. Like the whole idea is that they have something that they can use right away, and like the roadmap is, I think. Don't worry about the roadmap. What I really want to do is like here is the exact process to go get and structure this information so that a go-to-market engineer can be successful. So go ahead and create an artifact like that. Oh, this last artifact was so good. Okay, this video's got to end. Let's see. Let's see. Let's. Hopefully, this is a one-hit wonder. Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh my gosh, I talk about this. Yeah, yeah. This is great. Yeah. Oh, this is, and actually, I already have this. Yeah, this is the 5C framework. Yeah, yeah. This is great. Yeah, I think this is fantastic. Thanks so much for coming along with me. I'm going to figure out how to deploy this so that customers have a way to begin their conversations around a GTM engineer role. And I'm really grateful that you took the time to watch this almost 25, 25-minute video. Have a great day. Bye.